by all means, please tell my wife about us. In a previous life, before my world came apart about 5 months ago, I was the solo pastor of a medium-sized church in a large-ish southern city. One unhappy side effect of being a solo pastor is that when your phone rings, you answer it even if you don't recognize the number, since you have no idea how important the call may be. It could be a church member's grandkid, whom you've never met, calling to tell you Miss Bessie has been diagnosed with some horrible disease. Or it could be a church member who just wants to talk your ear off for 2 hours. So earlier this evening my phone rings, and since old habits die hard, I answered it. Me? Hello? Her. What are you up to? I want to be clear before I proceed that I don't recognize this lady's voice, but I just assumed that she was a former church member's kid or grandkid ... something, so I was cordial. Me? Not much, honestly. I actually just walked through the door with some food. How about you? Her. I'm hanging out with girl whose name I don't know. Me? Great. I'm sorry to have to ask this, but with whom am I speaking? I don't recognize your voice and I have no idea who other girl is. Ladies and gentlemen, apparently that was the wrong thing to say. Her. Darren, you know who this is. This is Jessie. Me? Well, Miss Jessie, I hate to break this to you, but my name isn't Darren and I don't know any women named Jessie. I believe you've called the wrong number. Her. No, I didn't. This isn't funny, Darren. What happened? Did you leave your ringer on again and you're worried your wife is going to hear us talking? Me? Ma'am, I'm very sorry, but now I know you've got the wrong number. Her. I want to come over there and tell her all about us and how you've been screwing me behind her back for 2 years. I'm sick of this shit. Malicious compliance. Me : You know what? That would be great. By all means, come to my house and wake my wife up and tell her all about our torrid sexual affair. Her. I'm leaving now. Engine cranks in background. Me? Okay, see you soon. 5 months ago I discovered that my wife of 10 years started cheating on me 18 months into our marriage. She racked up a grand total of 16 affairs in a decade. Somewhere in my immediate area, man's wife was just awakened by her husband's side piece banging on the front door. She deserves to know what kind of man she married. I'm just sorry I can't be a fly on the wall for the very special episode of the Jerry Springer Show that just started in her driveway. Chumplady.com is an online advice column for those who have been cheated on. With comments on each column, you will find a lot of good advice and support there. All cheaters pretty much use the same playbook. There are people there who just found out that they were cheated on, and people are a few years moved on who have created good lives for themselves, which can be inspiring for those whose world just ended. Good luck to you, up. Yeah, I only discovered her website a couple of years after my own marriage ended due to my ex's infidelity. I'm happy you found her site in a more timely fashion than I did. There is so much good stuff there. I know you've gotten tons of encouragement in this thread already, but let me throw in a little bit more from the other end of the journey. It's been 8 years now since the day I am engaged to an amazing man who went through the same thing in his own first marriage and is so loving and understanding when my fears occasionally rear their ugly heads. My ex and I have a cordial relationship, though that did not happen right away, and the other woman has turned out to be a surprisingly great stepmom. I can't even remember anymore what it was like to have feelings for him. Now he's just this guy that my kids live with for a couple days every week. I hope you have a loving and supporting family and friends and church community around you. It amazed me how many people came out of the woodwork to support me and spend time with me and keep me occupied during my darkest days. You start off by noticing a spot in the bathroom that needs cleaning. By the end you're in the kitchen making a loaf of bread. ADHD. Folks, I've done that one. ETA. I both love and hate the solidarity happening in these comments. It's nice that we can be like, hey, I'm not alone, and it sucks that we go through this, guessing pretty regularly. Second edit, please note that I've been diagnosed by a psychiatrist with ADHD, OCPD, with some OCD traits, so your mileage might vary depending on what you have or don't have. Not ADHD, but when I'm manic I can start by wiping a fridge and 15 minutes later I've got every dish out of the cupboards and drawers while I have brownies in the oven. 6 hours later I've cleaned the whole house and washed the walls and still finding things that just aren't clean enough. It's exhausting. That's called project creep and home improvement. You spackle over a hole on the wall and end up painting the whole wall and notice how bad the next wall is, and the crack along the ceiling is begging for crown molding. May as well open up that ceiling and put in some recessed lights while we're up there. That's the difference between bipolar mania and ADHD. I have both, as well as Asperger's. ADHD can lead you around by the nose all over the place, while mania often makes you dive super deep into one thing. I once didn't sleep for 3 days because I felt compelled to keep working on refinishing an old cedar chest I was turning into a humidor, and I just kept getting so many amazing new ideas for it. Classic ADHD. Started to make dinner and ended up loading the dishwasher but forgot to start it because I took the trash out first and noticed I left the leaf blower outside. So I took it to the garage and figured I should install the hook I bought to hang it on. I ran up to my bedroom to get the drill because I had been hanging curtains earlier. Since I'm going downstairs I should take the laundry down, at which point I realize I left wet clothes for 3 days in the washer and the smoke alarm is going off because my food is burning. Never did install that hook. Lol was going to comment this, ADHD person here. I've done a lot of things that I didn't set out to do, like setting out to finish some work, and then suddenly finding you've made 1,000 origami cranes, and also spent most of the time trying to lower your speedrun record in Super Mario Bros. My favorite food on the earth is homemade cinnamon rolls. My mother makes them instead of a cake for my birthday and I used to get them as a Christmas present too because it was apparently all I would ask for. My friend made them without the cream cheese icing and wow, it was disappointing. Never again lol. When my wife was in medical school, the favorite topic of conversation at parties, with her other medical students, was things I saw pulled out of people's asses during her rotation. Once medical students graduate and do their residencies and then start practicing, their favorite topic of conversation with other doctors is things I have pulled out of people's asses at the ER. Seriously people, use a sex toy with a cord or a string attached. The stories my sister has told me about what they dealt with in her 10 years in the ER is amazing. Seriously, what are people thinking when they shove this stuff up their ass? The best is of the doctor getting in trouble for asking a repeat offender if he wanted him to change the batteries or just remove the sex toy from his ass. The guy had came in 2 other times within a stretch of 2 weeks. Many years back I had a girl break up with me because I'm going to a guy's place later and I know I can't trust myself. All different kinds of fucked if you know you're gonna sleep with some dude in advance while you're in a relationship already. At the time I was rightly upset but could appreciate her honesty. A bit later I found out she went a bit crazy after she got a taste, and eventually fell pregnant to a one-night stand. After I found that out I was definitely a bit less upset over what she did. My favorite wrong number story starts with multiple girls calling a number that belonged to an older woman living alone. There was no Tony living here. Finally the woman had enough. She tells the next girl calling for Tony that he's in the den with Susie and that Tony said he didn't want to be bothered. No more phone calls. I had a text from a wrong number. The first time I replied in the helpful manner. When they texted again a couple days later, I borrowed a trick from the internet. I hid the body. Now what? They called. I answered. She sounded freaked out, but I was back to being helpful and saying she definitely had the wrong number. A couple days later I get a text from a different number. Dig up the body. I just said LOL and that was the end of it. It's from a movie called From Dusk Till Dawn. Asked by George Clooney to Harvey Keitel. The mention of being a former pastor got it stuck in my head. I'm definitely picturing you as the type of pastor to bless condoms full of water to make holy water balloons, then picking up a shotgun to fight some vampires. No, it doesn't really make sense in context. Not up. But it would really depend on the person and on what type of church we are talking about. The Catholic Church, for instance, has a pretty extensive and exhaustive network of colleagues that serve to support each other in various ways, but of course Catholic priests do not marry. At a small independent church, the only support network a pastor might have is his friends and family. Most independent churches have some type of board of elders, usually elected, who help administer the church, usually in finances, but also they commonly have the ability to hire or fire a pastor, but they would also usually serve as impromptu advisors on spiritual and personal matters. It's also quite common for churches to have associate pastors or youth pastors who fill in for the head pastor some Sundays and lead other various church functions, and of course they would be friends and colleagues. I'm not a philosopher, Harry, Michael said, but here's something for you to think about, at least. What goes around comes around, and sometimes you get what's coming around. He paused for a moment, frowning faintly, pursing his lips. And sometimes you are what's coming around. Jim Butcher, Grave Peril. I found out because of a phone number in the checkbook. I hadn't seen it before, so I called it. She didn't know me, but she knew my husband. It hurt knowing he had been cheating on me. It hurt even more knowing that every single one of our friends knew and didn't say anything. That's how I found out they were never my friends at all, just his buddies happy to keep me in the dark. Mine racked up 7 years. I took the house, car, kids, everything she loved. She ended up forfeiting her visitation rights after a year and now lives in the worst part of town. She is unemployed with no family or friends and dates a boss that lives off the government. From one to another, I thank you, sir. Hey, sorry you went through that. Military chaplain myself who 3 years ago found out my husband had 10, admitted, affairs over the course of our 7-year marriage. Hands down the most painful experience of my life, but the pain lessens as you build a new life. Highly recommend therapy if you're not already in it. That's hysterical. I love it. Justice served. As for the cheating wife, it will get better with her gone, hoping you are divorcing. My husband's ex-wife did the same in a 9-year period. Affair count is higher than he originally knew, double digits, to include sucking off her own daughter's boyfriend a few times along with mistreating the kids and destroying the home and finances with overspending, demanding expensive jewelry, not cleaning and hoarding. She did him a favor and left him for the final act because she had sucked him dry financially and destroyed the house. She even quit-claimed the deed to the house on her way out, thinking she stuck him with worthless property and she just dropped a new meal ticket. We got together a year later, married 1.5 years after that. Not as soon as one thinks. We were each other's. The one who got away from a long time ago and didn't have any contact until 1 year after this happens to him. We weren't having an emotional affair or anything during their nightmare. I share this personal story with you to illustrate it only took him a month to realize her being gone was the best thing that could happen to him. He spent the next year digging out of the financial hole, and we spent 2 years repairing the house which we just sold for a profit. Yes, 2 years. We both work and did a majority of the work to save money. This wasn't normal get a house ready to sell. It was massive amounts of cleaned out of junk. He had been working on it and wasn't done yet, replacing subflooring. She hoarded dogs, not just stuff, and allowed them to pee everywhere even though she stayed home while he worked as per their arrangement. So it's not that he expected her to take care of the house just because she was the wife. He realizes he should have left long before she walked out. But we have grace for women who stay in abusive relationships and need to acknowledge men experience abuse too, and it affects their thinking just like women. Anyway, you say you were a pastor. Beauty for ashes. Also, I will repay you for the years the locusts have eaten. Quoting to you what may seem familiar and believe all forms of belief systems have similar ideology, and they are true. When you throw the toxic out of your life, good and positive things happen. My husband is living his best life and you will be too. One of the worst and best things my best friend has ever done to me was show me a sex tape from my then boyfriend boning a mutual friend of us because I was too naive and dumb to realize he's been cheating, despite being told. It hurt like hell and I never felt this betrayed. I was even angry at my best friend of telling me, but once the worst wore off I was so thankful. It's a thankless job to be the carrier of bad news, but it's one that deserves more praise. I feel for you. I'm waiting for the judge to set a date for final hearing right now. It would have been 12 years this December. The sad part is I forgave her the first time, and tried to make it work. After she did it again, I drew the line and cut it off. Hilarious though this story is, it's for the best that the wife find out now rather than some years later, or worse, from a positive STD diagnosis. To all the cheaters who are angry, buzz off. To all the pastors who never intended murderous repercussions, people are known to be shot, knifed in these surprise situations. Just don't think twice, pray, do whatever you have to do. This stranger's business is not your own, and you don't know the level of crazy of a stranger. But that convo sounds crazy to me. Tomorrow's Jerry Springer headline: hapless wife killed by husband's lover, cheating spouse walks away scot-free. Or, husband's lover killed by his wife, cheating spouse walks away scot-free. Yeah, Jezebel isn't morally clear, but she's not breaking vows, and neither is the wife. The cheated upon spouse deserves and needs to know, but not this way. Reading most of the responses on this thread, I am expecting mine to be massively downvoted. Honestly, I'm surprised the pastor would do this. I'm not a religious and not of the Christian faith, but my standing is that Ops Act was going to knowingly cause harm to someone, and likely many people, he doesn't know without having any real context of the facts of the case. Seems strange a choice a pastor would make, purposely putting others in harm's way. Maybe Op isn't a pastor and is fabricating that part for the story. Maybe the whole story is fabricated. Maybe just character differences in what I believe is correct versus what Op does. But seems shady characters more than malicious compliance. I am so sorry this happened to you. Please know that life will improve and you truly are better off without her. I really struggled in my relationship with God when my first marriage crumbled. I now realize He was preparing me for the amazing marriage I have now. We all love and learn and hurt. It's okay to wallow in it for a while, but you can't settle and live there. I'm sending you healing strength and hugs. As far as I'm concerned, there isn't a spot in hell hot enough for her. Mate, while I absolutely understand that point of view, I really don't think that it is a healthy one to hang on to for too long for your own mental health, a bit like the old saying that holding a grudge is like drinking poison and hoping that the other person will die. My pastor described forgiveness as a spectrum, from I utterly hate them, I want them to die a horrible death and then dance on their unmarked, unmourned grave at one end, to I want the absolute best for them just as much as I want it for myself. But what is most important is not where we are on that spectrum, but which way we are facing and moving. And he acknowledged that we might not get anywhere near the correct end in this life.